Hello, my beautiful friend. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm super excited you are here, and I'm super excited because I am going on vacation in a few days too. Hashtag trading turkey for tacos. That is the hashtag I've been using for the past few Thanksgivings. A few years back, we decided to go non-stateside to celebrate Thanksgiving. We went down to Mexico, and I remember at the time hashtagging trading turkey for tacos because I love me a good street taco. Oh my gosh, a good street taco is just dynamite. And so I was all excited and I was hashtagging that. And little did I know we'd be going to Mexico again the next year and the next year and the next year. And so I think this is our sixth annual year in a row that we are trading turkey for tacos. And what's so fun is in the past couple of years, we've picked up our friends that like to join our little jaunts down to Mexico. And so it's now a bigger family adventure with friends. And so we just have so much fun. This year, we're trying two different cities we haven't been to in Mexico. So that's also fun when you get to explore something new and places you haven't been. So we're super excited to go and trade turkey for tacos again this year. So what I want to talk about on today's podcast is about essentials for the change process or the growth process. Many of you have resonated when I put out the podcast about how to create a breakthrough a few weeks ago, and some of you have jumped on a call with me. We've talked about how to create change that is sustainable. And in these conversations, I was realizing, wow, there's gold here that I could share with more of you because I don't realize people need to hear the fundamentals that are required for the change process that would help it make it stick. So we want to undergo change and not fall back and keep going and falling back and slipping up. We don't want the shame cycle where we start, feel strong, slip up, have shame, and don't want to start again. And then when we get it strong enough, we start again, slip up, have shame, stop, right? So that shame process, right? That cycle. So we want to look at change where it's going to be sustainable, whether it's around drinking less, whether it's around losing weight for the last time, and you're like, just darn it, I'm sick of this yo-yoing. I'm sick of putting on the holiday weight gain and then trying to get it off January, February, and March. So I see some people go into that cycle. And so I want to talk about three components from my view in working and coaching women that have really made a huge difference on if they do the change, will it be sustainable? So let's talk about those three different areas. So the big area I am seeing, particularly this really resonated with me when I started working more and more with women around weight, is I've had some clients where they'll come and they'll say, I've tried everything. I've tried the GLP-1 agonists. I've had a woman who it just didn't work. She lost 1 pound and she'd been on it for over 6 months. And she changed her diet. She changed her exercise. We went through all of the wellness components for a healthy lifestyle. She was making all the changes. And it was so frustrating to her. She's spending all this money, getting these medications, injecting herself, feeling the nausea, right? All the things. And by the time I was brought in to consult with her, she was just at her wit's end. The team was at their wit's end. And I asked her a simple question, and I think I've shared this on the podcast before. It's like, does it feel safe in your body to be this thinner weight? And immediately she said no and just really started breaking down because she had all these thoughts about how she was teased when she was in her teens and her 20s about having a larger size body and all of this thing. And so she said there's this disconnect that she wants to be there, but she just doesn't feel safe to go there. And so mentally, I really believe she was blocking the medication and the effects because the mind is so powerful. What we believe, we live into, we create. And so working with her on her safety to be able to lose this weight, be proud of this woman at this weight, right? And feel safe to inhabit that body was what's going to make all the difference for her. And so I bring this up because I don't think this is a subtle thing. I think it's subtle that we're maybe not tuned in, but once we ask our bodies, once we ask our nervous system, hey, is it frightening to be over there? Is it frightening to get to my goal on some level? And if that is coming up as a yes, then we need to do some nervous system regulation to create safety and security in the body. Now, I've seen this working with women who want to cut back, and knowing it happened to me too is like, oh, I identify as this over drinker. I identify as every time I go out, I just get a drink because I just get to, I want to, and it's there. Why not? So it felt like a lot of fear coming up when I wanted to cut back and continued to cut back. And even though my drink count for the week was pretty darn high, it was a lot lower than what I had normally been going at. And I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Oh, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I feel safe in my body, right? All these emotions are coming up, and I didn't have these emotions. I just numbed them out and had dopamine hits all along the way. And that felt much safer, much better. So I had to create and learn to create more safety in my body as I peeled away some of these behaviors that were no longer serving my health and my wellness. And when I'm talking about health and wellness, I want to really stress that I'm not meaning the absence of disease, right? It doesn't mean that just because you don't have alcoholism, depression, obesity, high blood pressure, right? Just because you have an absence of disease does not necessarily mean wellness in my category. How I think of wellness is not striving from a hustle, but you like have purpose and passion in life, and you're fueled from almost the inside out, right? You're just fueled by all that life has to offer you. I think that's like thriving. That's like optimal wellness. That's epic, right? That's what I help my clients get to, is because that's the life I want to live. And if I'm living it and these things are working for me, like, let me share them with others, because it's hard to struggle, and you don't really want to struggle. If you had a different way out and knew of a different way out, right? You would say, yeah, let's get out of this struggle bus and put me into a life where I feel empowered, amazing, epic, living my core values. One of my core values is travel. I love traveling. I love it. I post about any time I travel. I love traveling, and I want to keep that core value, right? And so, yeah, that to me is epic. And so that's wellness. So do you have safety of becoming the person you're trying to become? Once you do, it's easier to maintain it. It's like, I don't have fear now around drinking less. And actually, I haven't touched alcohol, I think, since Circa Day March-ish. I don't know, somewhere around that time frame. And I don't want it back in my life. And I feel amazing. I feel better than I've ever felt before in my life. It feels awesome. But I don't have fear about being this person. And I think some people have so much fear that it feels unsafe. And so we really have to work on that nervous system regulation and create safety so that the mind can, like, oh, yeah, I can let that habit go. Yeah, I can let that food that I've been eating go. That doesn't really serve me. Or I can let whatever so-and-so go, right? So creating that safety, just notice if you have a lot of fear of becoming the person you're striving to be or leveling up to be, and really ask yourself, is there fear that's blocking that? Do you feel safe? And if you do have fear that's coming up and safety, that's just now information that you get to work with and bring that to somebody. Bring that to a coach, a therapist, get help, right, to support your nervous system if you don't know how to do that yourself. So creating the safety, which leads into what I just said for number 2, is support. Oftentimes we can't get there ourselves. We might need the extra medication. We might need the coach. We might need the therapist. We might need the personal trainer. We might need the auxiliary person to help us accomplish what we want to accomplish until it gets embedded into our habits and we can maintain it on our own. Now, maybe you have the luxury or the privilege to continue to work with that person and that feels good for you. Great. If it's working for your life, if it's adding value to your life, you could support it financially and from a time perspective. Fabulous. Keep doing it. Many people high up, big time CEOs, right? They work with personal trainers day in, day out, years and year and year and year after year after year. Fabulous, right? It's benefiting their health. It's benefiting their wellness. And it's like having a partner along the way, right? Sometimes life can be lonely. So to have a partner doing something, or a support system or a tribe, so much better than doing it on your own. And I really think, even though I don't support 100% of the 12-step programs out there, I think there's some aspects of them that can not be so healing and not be so helpful. The one part I do agree with is that they come together and they help one another. right? That's beautiful. Somebody's been through the journey, their story, their pain point, they've turned into purpose, just like me, my pain point around alcohol, turning it into my purpose, right? Helping others, showing them the way, giving them the tools through this podcast, through my programs, right? Helping them really become that person that they want to be, creating the safety for that, creating a safe container for that, right? Vetting people when they come into the programs, right? Really getting to know you. I mean, the women I work with, I know their families, I know the names of their families and where they go and what they like. It's really a heart-led mission. I love them. They're like family to me. I care about them. They care about themselves. They're in there wanting better. And so having that support system, however you find that, maybe it's one-on-one, maybe you need to join a group, whatever feels good to you to get that support. Because listen, when we look at what is out there in the world, if we're just following everybody else around us, I bet you a lot of people around you might not be leveling up to the maybe where you want to grow and change and level up to. I mean, when we look at 50% of adults in the United States have diabetes, so only 12%, and now a newer study says 7% are metabolically flexible, which means they have one of the 5 conditions of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, increased waist circumference, right? And so they are not metabolically healthy. And you know me, I'm all about wanting to be metabolically healthy, which means I can burn fat. I'm not always storing it. I store it sometimes, and my body's able to burn it. Once you become insulin resistant, once you become pre-diabetic, or once you become diabetic, you are not metabolically healthy. And when you think only 7% or 12%, depending on the study you read and go with, are metabolically healthy, that means 88% of people out there are not. So if we're following their ways and their behaviors, that might not be in alignment with our optimal health or our optimal wellness or where we want to be and how we want to be showing up in the world. So sometimes people want to follow those people that are part of that 7% or that 12% because they want to level up. And that's just getting your tribe mind, right? To change your mindset around things, to change your habits around things. And that's all very good. Very, very good. So safety, support. And then the last one I want to talk about is really a lot of people get hung up on this. And I'm going to slow down when I talk about it because I don't want to rush through it. And that is growth and the change process is not A to B to C to D, and it all goes up on this nice straight curve. It doesn't look that nice. It doesn't look that clean. The change process gets a little messy. There's some slip-ups. There's some sadness. There's some, ooh, I learned I shouldn't do that. My body didn't like that. Ooh, that didn't work for me. Oh, I have a headache after I ate that, or I feel bloated, or whatever. That doesn't feel good. I overdid it at the gym, too much on the weights, right? There are going to be times where we're not going to feel like going to the gym or whatever, feel like eating what's on our meal plan or whatever you are following. There are going to be times where we do have a slip up or we don't follow through exactly as planned. And so that perfectionism, that all or nothing mindset, that is a huge one. A lot of times I'll start working with women who say they've been measuring all their food and stepping on the scale every day or every other day, and now they're not noticing progress and not noticing change. And actually, they're seeing that the changes are going in the wrong direction. And that's why they choose to work with me, right? So they're like, oh, yes, I'm not happy about where the results are going. Everything that was working now all of a sudden isn't. And they're not on track, right? So, right, we expect a slip up or things to be messy, but eventually everything goes in the right direction. So as long as we are still getting progress over time, yes. If we are not getting any progress, that's when we really have to look at everything and do tweaks. Sometimes it's a major overhaul, depends on exactly what program you're following and what has been working and what hasn't. And so knowing that it's not perfect, and maybe I'm talking to myself here, right? Knowing that it's not perfect is part of the growth process, right? It's like, oh, yes. Now this feelings of sadness, so how do I deal with this emotional health piece that's staring me in the face. And don't change it to shame, because that will block you, right? So part of this process, the safety, the support, the nonlinear growth, right? We also have to make sure shame does not come in. Because if we start shaming ourselves, telling ourselves how we can't stay committed or whatever it is we make about ourselves and our being, that's only going to block us from getting more progress. So shame has to go out. But what comes in when shame comes out? Compassion. But I want to change that and say you're being self-led. And that's going to augment the other three. You're leading yourself. You are wanting this change because nobody can make you change. And that's the thing, right? A lot of times I might hear like, oh, can you help my husband or can you help my daughter or whatever? It's like only if they are self-led, if they want the change. It's when you want the change, your brain now becomes open, curious, and willing to do new things. And we know the old way wasn't working. So the brain has to be open to want to do new things in order for us to even get started on the safety, for us to get even started on the support, and for us to even get started on recognizing it's going to be non-linear and that is okay. And if that's expected, and there's going to be some slip-ups or some sadness or whatever you want to call it that comes in, let's use that as fuel to keep going because there's a lesson in there. And I love that piece so much, which is why mindset is so key because it's so tied to our emotions. And our emotional health goes right along with our physical health. We can't ignore that piece. And if we do, we don't get sustainable change that's long-lasting. All right, my friend, I hope this podcast has helped you make change more sustainable in your life. All right, my friend, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Health Habits and Epic Living podcast. If you're ready to take the next step to improve your health, wellness, and lifestyle goals, head over to www.epicyou.com and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Again, that's EPICYOU.com. Please note that the information in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice.